As a woman, do you feel pretty? What does it mean to you to be ladylike? I'm talking to women today and asking those questions and more next.
We're here in this world for a purpose and just really trying to find my purpose.
I would say losing my son.
Hi, and welcome to Carla Cash Out Loud. I'm Carla. Thank you so much for joining me today. It always makes my day so much more special when you keep me company. As a woman, do you feel pretty? Do you feel beautiful? Do you feel attractive? What makes you feel attractive? Do you feel ladylike? Do you feel feminine? What makes you feminine and ladylike? What are those qualities and what do they mean to you? So many different questions, and I'm asking those questions of women today. And this was inspired by a tag created by Little Poet. I will link her channel and her video down below in the description box. It was also done by Monica of Monica's Lifestyle and Beauty, and I will link her video and her channel down in the description box as well. To me, being a woman and feeling pretty is a very complicated issue. So I'm excited to dive into these questions, but I'm a little scared too because I want to know your answers as well. And when you dig deep and when you reveal your answers and tell me in the comment section down below, you may find out this is a bit more emotional than you might have originally thought. When you were a little girl, did you feel pretty?
Yes, I did a lot of pageants and modeling, and my mom was always dressing me up and doing the big hair and taking me places, and she always told me I was the most beautiful girl in the world, and I believed her. And I believed it myself. I've always felt pretty no matter what, no matter my weight, or I think it just has to do more with happiness and being happy more than what I put on or what I wear or what anybody says.
Absolutely not.
Tell me about that.
I think with women, well, with my growing up, the way that I grew up, I was always told I was too heavy. I remember asking for my 14th birthday to if my present couldn't be Weight Watchers, and that was 14. So I realized that, my mother now says, but you asked for it. If I hadn't been raised to feel so utterly unlovable because of what I looked like in comparison to the rest of the women in my family, why would a 14-year-old want to diet? I didn't come up with that on my own. That's society, that's everything. And also I believe that women, if you ever do say, yes, I'm pretty, yes, I'm thin enough, you're more than egocentric.
Do you feel pretty now?
I do.
Absolutely not. Nothing has changed whatsoever. Probably a little worse on myself now because I'm 49.
When I was a little girl, I felt pretty up until the age of about 5 or 6. And that's when I started school, and that's when all the bullying and teasing began. And from that day on, I never felt pretty, including up until this day. I still struggle with my self-esteem when it comes to my appearance. I remember being about 12 years old, and my mother and I were leaving the church parking lot. Keyword there being church parking lot. Remember that part. It's very important in this part of the story. We were leaving the church parking lot, driving out very slowly after a service, and a gang of boys surrounded our car. Boys about my age, 13, 14-year-old boys, and they started throwing things at the car, and they started screaming, "There's the pig! There's the pig! Here comes the pig! Here comes the pig!" And they were talking about me. Well, I wasn't overweight. In fact, I was quite thin. I was very thin. And they were screaming at the top of their lungs, "There's the pig! There's the pig!" And they started pointing at me, and they got closer and closer and closer to the car and started shaking the car back and forth, back and forth. And my mother couldn't move the car. She couldn't drive it because they were standing in the way, and they were rocking the car back and forth and back and forth, just screaming, "Pig, pig, pig, pig." When you're 12 years old and you've already been bullied from the time you were 6, and then you keep being bullied from 12 to 18, it takes a real toll on your self-esteem, especially about your appearance. No one wants to be called a pig. And my parents told me every single day how beautiful I am. And they told me from the time I was born, which is why I say I felt pretty up until I was about 5 or 6. But they told me from the time I was born until the days they died that I was beautiful and how proud they were of me, not just for appearance, but for things I had accomplished in life. But when you are beaten down and beaten down and beaten down and beaten down and told repeatedly how ugly you are and called a pig, you begin to doubt the positive voices and the negative voices take over in your head. So after the age of 5 or 6, after I started school, I never felt pretty again, and I still don't. Surveys say the top qualities men love in a woman is her being feminine and ladylike. What does that mean to you?
I actually don't agree with that. You know, I was brought up to have manners, and my mom would sometimes poke me under the table with a fork when I wasn't using manners and stuff. But I'm so loud and boisterous, and my personality is so just loud, I would say. So being ladylike and, you know, having the proper etiquette and manners has never really been important. Feminine, yes. I love to be a girl or a woman now. But ladylike, I definitely wouldn't use that word to describe me. So not so important to me.
Idiots. I think one of my favorite tropes, Southern tropes, is when they're young, the vapor is dearly mine, dearie me. And then all of a sudden you have this, like, you go to bed one night and you wake up in the morning, you no longer have the vapors, but all of a sudden you know how to wave a handgun around. So it becomes like the Southern woman that, I wouldn't do that if I were you. You know, F around and find out. It's not going to work out very well. I remember my grandmother shooting a snake off of, oh yeah, and even my dad says, she's a much better shot at that than I am. I mean, they grew up in South next to the bayou, but yeah, when she didn't have a gun, don't worry. She ran over a snake with her bicycle. Left me somewhat traumatized, but there you are. I was sent, like every good Southern girl my age, I'm 49, to Miss Manners at age 5. I did do my debutante. I was raised at Junior Assembly, J.A. Cotillions. So that is absolutely ladylike. And going to college and being raised as an artist, I've always been told that in order to break the rules, you have to know the rules. So I know which ones I want to break and which ones I'll actually use.
My definition of feminine and ladylike has changed over the decades. There was a time I thought that to be feminine and ladylike, you had to dress a certain way, carry yourself a certain way. And I still believe in many of those things. My mother sent me to etiquette school when I was a little girl to make sure that I knew how to behave and say please and thank you and be polite and have manners and know which fork to use at a fancy dinner. And those things are still important to me. But I also believed when I was younger that to be ladylike, you had to be quiet, that you had to stifle your intelligence, that you had to never have a confrontation. That was unladylike, to have a disagreement. That you had to agree with everyone, please everyone, and make everyone happy all the time. Interestingly enough, I went into broadcasting and became a talk show host where my job was to argue with people. Imagine that. And I never felt that that was unladylike, though, because I felt I was doing my job and I felt competent at my job. But it's a man's world in the talk radio and talk television world. And so I had to stand up for myself, to hold my own, to win the argument, to do my shows on TV and radio and on national television programs like Fox News Channel and BBC and others like that. So it's a fine line for me between what's ladylike and feminine and what's aggressive. So my goal is to be assertive, not aggressive. I now believe that you can be feminine and ladylike but still say no, still have boundaries, still refuse to engage in conflict, set your limits, know your limits, and still stand your ground. You can still be a woman and still be feminine while holding your own. And that has nothing to do with appearance. Do you wear makeup? Why do you wear makeup? Or why not? And can you feel pretty without it?
I do wear makeup on occasion. Today I put some powder and mascara on. But I tend not to wear makeup so much because it makes me feel aged. Like I just look at myself and I don't feel as pretty with more makeup on. I just feel like it's kind of weighing me down a little bit. So the more I put on, the more scary it starts to look. So I just try not to do too much, unless it's like a formal event, which I don't attend many of those. So.
And do you think you can feel pretty without it?
Absolutely, 100%. I feel way more pretty without it than with it.
I wear makeup so that when I would go to functions, I would photograph better. I wear makeup for photos, and also I do enjoy wearing makeup sometimes. I am not an everyday makeup wearer. I don't even understand foundation or concealer. I still can't wrap my brain. I don't know what CC and BB creams are. A BB is something you're never supposed to shoot in somebody's face. I don't understand why I would apply that. I also am very confused by what is your skin regimen? You do understand that regimen is a military term, right? Are we going to war on my face? I would rather not. I would prefer you just step back. Being in the South, I guess I just don't wear that much makeup. I do like my lashes though, but nope, run out and don't wear any makeup.
Do you think you can feel pretty or attractive without makeup?
Do I feel that way about myself? I have my mind on other things. As for what the general public thinks, I didn't ask them because I didn't care.
There was a time in my life that I would not leave the house without makeup on. In fact, my mother would not let me leave the house without makeup on as long as I was living at home. Even if I was going to the gym to work out or to take a run or a jog or some sort of exercise or to the pool or to the beach or anything like that, I was not allowed to leave the house as long as I lived under her roof without a full face of makeup on. And my father stood fully behind that. Now, I often go without makeup, sometimes by choice and sometimes because I get lazy, let's be honest. But I also found that I went without makeup a lot when I was depressed. So now it's my choice. I've overcome that depression. I've overcome that sadness. And I used to wear makeup, a full face of very heavy makeup, as a shield. It was a mask that I wore to take on the outside world. It was a mask that I wore to hide what I thought was a very ugly face, a very hurting heart, and a very wounded soul. If I was behind that mask, people couldn't see who I really was and how hurt I truly was. And that mask was very important to me. But now makeup is my choice. Can I feel pretty without it? I don't feel as pretty without it as I do with it. I feel more put together with it, but I do find myself as I'm aging wearing less and less, and I attribute that to being more and more confident. Where is your road to beautiful leading you? How has it changed? How has it stayed the same?
Within the past year or so, I've found out I had some health conditions that have made life a little bit difficult, and so I have days where I don't feel as pretty as I normally do just because I don't feel good. And I've changed my diet over the last year, and not only have I lost weight, which is great, health-wise and for looks-wise, but it's really made me feel a lot prettier because I feel good inside of my body. My body feels good when I make right choices, and also when I exercise, it is not just good for your body but for your mind also, and I find a lot of happiness in doing that, and I feel productive. and that makes me feel prettier.
Well, it led me to divorce. I still don't know why my husband divorced me. He never told me. In fact, we never even went to one counseling session. But what he did put in the divorce papers was my obsession with not getting old or looking older. And now when I look back on photos of that, and the divorce is still fresh, less than a year, he was starting to lose his hair. He had gotten so big that he couldn't run any longer. He was a runner when he grew up, but it was too much weight on his knees. Now, I loved him. Men fight, age like a fine wine. But I do have a sneaking suspicion I got cut loose because I refused to go down without a fight, which I have always said it's not confusing, but I just wouldn't go back into the box, especially the closer to 50 I get. If I cared what other people thought, I'd go ahead and ask them. I do get my forehead Botoxed. I do have a little bit of filler in my lips, and the person that I'm with, I don't even know if he notices, nor have I asked him, because again, not asking for permission. It's something that I like, I want to do, and it's for me. Now, obviously, apparently, that led to my divorce because he took personal offense to me doing what I wanted to do to keep up my appearance.
The path to beautiful for me is 100% different at age 55 than it was at age 25. At age 25, that little 12-year-old girl that I told you about earlier in the video still existed in my heart. I always felt very intimidated by other girls, not in a competitive way, and I certainly wasn't jealous, but I felt intimidated. I felt everyone else was prettier. I felt everyone else was more confident and more competent, even though I was a model and I participated in beauty pageants and I walked the runways and was in all types of photo shoots and modeling and fashion shows and that type of thing. I mean, I did that as a teenager and in my early 20s. Even with that, I still felt like the ugly duckling. I felt like the sympathy case, like the one they threw the job to because they just needed to have somebody who looked plain and normal or even abnormal in their fashion show or in their beauty pageant. I felt like a sympathy case. There was no road to beautiful for me when I was a young woman because I didn't feel beautiful. I felt so incredibly ugly. I felt I had a beautiful soul and a beautiful heart that was worth getting to know, but I felt no one would look past my outer appearance, past my face. And I have struggled with that in recent years as I've gained weight. It has been a hard pill for me to swallow. Now, I have lost 65 pounds over the last couple of years, and that helps. But I feel like, especially since gaining weight, people don't look at me anymore. They look past me. They look through me. They still look at the thin, young, beautiful women. And I never felt like I turned heads when I was younger, and I certainly don't feel like I turn heads now. But the difference now is that I'm confident in me. 25-year-old me did not love myself at all. 55-year-old me does. 55-year-old me has confidence. 55-year-old me believes in my talent and my competence. 55-year-old me believes in my capabilities. And I know that I'm capable of doing a lot of things. I've accomplished a lot in my broadcasting career, and I'm proud of that. And I know that I have talent in those areas. I know that I've touched lives in those areas, and that means the world to me too. So the road to beautiful for me now has changed from feeling like that ugly duckling that nobody loved to feeling like an accomplished woman who can tackle anything, especially since my husband died. I'm standing on my own. I bought a house, I moved, I'm opening a business. My whole life has completely changed from just 1 year ago. So beauty to me now is confidence. Beauty to me now is living my life. Has nothing to do with this right here, but everything to do with what's inside right here. So what are your answers to these questions? Do you feel pretty? What's the path on your road to beautiful like? Do you struggle with insecurities? Have you ever been made fun of for your appearance like I was? Tell me in the comments section down below. We can all help each other here in this community. I would love to hear your stories of both triumph and tragedy and how you've overcome your insecurities and how you know that you are beautiful, because you are beautiful. God doesn't make junk and God doesn't make mistakes, and you are beautiful. I promise you that. Thank you so much for watching today, and thank you to Little Poet for making this tag and to Monica for doing it. Again, I will link their channels and their videos in the description box down below. It makes my day so much more special when you keep me company, and it means the world to me to have you here. And while you're here, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and hit the little bell next to it so that you'll never miss one of my upcoming videos. On this channel, I interview real people about real life, asking them real questions, getting their real answers, real emotions, raw emotions. Sometimes they're sharing those emotions for the first time out loud, and that's what I do here every week. So I hope you'll join me next Friday. Until then, much love to you. Bye-bye. And never forget how beautiful you are.